Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hit and Hustle from IrishSportsDaily.com. I'm your host, Greg Flammang, and with me, as always, is Jamie Uyeyama, Mr. Jamie University. It is Wednesday, July 30th. We are on the eve of fall camp starting, and we're going to talk top 5 defensive storylines heading into that fall camp. Last week, we did the offense. Today, we're going to do the defense. From what was one of the best defensive units in all of college football last year. Got a new defensive coordinator in Chris Ash. Can they keep that going? Can they keep the same standard on the defensive side of the ball? We're going to look at pass rush, defensive backs, linebackers, second safeties, freshmen, things of that nature. So it's going to be a great show. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. If you like what you hear, please hit that like button. Please hit subscribe. Please hit the notification bell. So whatever it is, we are going live. Links to the podcast are in the description below. And as always, the show is brought to you by ESQ Clothing, founded by Notre Dame alum Ge Wang, and Chicago's go-to for the best custom suits, shirts, and sports coats. As Notre Dame reloads for the season, now's the time to refresh your wardrobe and add the perfect suit, sport coat, tuxedo, or casual jacket for fall. ESQ's master tailors combine next-level craftsmanship for the finest fabrics to deliver a fit that's built just for you. Now with showrooms both downtown Chicago and in Winnetka, book your custom fitting for esqclothing.com. Step into confidence with Chicago's finest. Mention ISD at your appointment and receive 10% off your entire purchase. Jamie, before we get going, I put a poll out on the Twitters about what people thought would be a successful season for Notre Dame, because it was kind of inspired by Bud Elliott, who mentioned something on his website or on his Twitter page about what he thought a successful season would be for Notre Dame. He said success would be getting to the quarterfinals, so winning a first round game and just bare minimum getting to the quarterfinals. I thought people would feel higher than that. 72% of people said a successful season would either be a semifinal appearance or semifinal appearance or an appearance in the national title game. It was final 2 or final 4. I think it's hard to actually feel like for me to have an opinion on what I think a successful season will be until I actually see the team play. I thought it'd be interesting, just as a baseline, what you think a successful season is for Notre Dame. I kind of feel like Notre Dame is a top 6 team in college football. So for me, quarterfinals, semifinals it's in the middle there, depending on how things were to fall in that regard. Some people think just making the playoffs. There was so much talked about with the new quarterback. A lot of comments about, oh, you got a new quarterback? Like, you really think like you expect to reach the semifinals again with a new quarterback? I don't really look at it like that. I kind of look at the totality of the team, but without factoring in everything else. Where do you kind of fall on that, Jamie, in terms of what you think a successful season is for this particular team without factoring in potential matchups and all those things? Just kind of a baseline, shot in the dark, what your thoughts are on that.
I think it is semifinals or quarterfinals of CFP. I think that is pretty fair, going into the season. But like you said, there's so many factors that happen during the season of, you finding out about the team and obviously injuries, because that's part of what made last year, such a success in the eyes of so many, was that, man, they just kept losing players. And it was just one of these things where it looked like things were falling apart, because of injuries. And, now this is officially when it's going to be over. They can't overcome this or that. And they just kept defying the odds. And because of that, I think because of that, that's what made it like, and the process of what they did to beat the teams that they did, like, beating Georgia, beat Penn State, whatever, win the first home playoff game, that ends up getting them. That changes the narrative of all of it, right? Because they just kept defying the odds and them getting there, and then even getting to the point where they were overmatched by Ohio State, and it was like, well, but they barely had, so many of the key guys were out. And, I know there was key guys up for Ohio State, but not as many as Notre Dame. And that also changed the way that people look at that. And there's just, the context does matter when it comes down to it. And if they get to so I think if you get to the quarterfinals and they lose to the eventual national champion in the quarterfinals in like a epic back and forth game,
Yeah.
You have to look at it in a way at that time, and it'll be viewed as that time. But yes, going into the season, I look at Notre Dame's roster. I look at obviously their coaching staff. I look at the culture, the vibes around the program, what they're doing in recruiting, everything that is going. This whole offseason has been like, maybe not the whole offseason, but the majority of the off season has been like extremely positive vibes, right? Yeah. And even when there's like something bad that happens, or it's like, well, they haven't had a commitment in a while, then boom, they get a bunch of commitments or whatever. Like, and that's why too, like Charles Juggesaw gets hurt, off field injury. It's like Notre Dame fans are almost expecting us like, well, Sullivan Absher is probably going to be pretty good, or whoever is going to end up starting there, right? So I think that will kind of change that, where because there's so much optimism going into the season, and I think that is a good thing, and it's a great thing, and I really do think that where Notre Dame's positioned, like, yeah, you should judge it by, if like they don't make the CFP, like, yeah, that's a big failure, right?
Yeah.
Like if they don't, if they go and lose to a team that they shouldn't lose to in the CFP, like, they're heavily favored in that game and they lose, or like, I'm sure Georgia won the SEC last year. 100% everyone views that a season as a failure for them, because of how they lost to Notre Dame, right? Yeah. Going into the season, I think, yeah, it should be looked at as like making the semifinal and then kind of like go from there, I think.
Yeah. And then once the season starts, you reevaluate. Like, I think the reason people, because when Notre Dame got to the playoffs last year, my view of it is like, they really should make a run here, because I thought they were playing better than Georgia. Like their numbers kind of showed that. And it kind of bear that out. Like, Notre Dame's actually a better team than Georgia, and they're a better team than Penn State, and so they needed to win those games, but that was only after having seen them all year. So we'll have to reevaluate. CFB Hertz made a comment here. For me, a successful season means putting a championship caliber product on the field. Process is greater than results. I think that's a good way to look at it. I think that's a good, healthy way for CFB Hertz to go about this. All right, let's talk about the defensive storylines going into fall camp that starts tomorrow. We didn't put Chris Ash on here, and the reason that I didn't push for that is we're not really going to find out about that during fall camp. That'll be like a huge storyline going into the Miami game. How he calls the game, what the defensive structure is, and how he kind of navigates that whole thing. So for me, he's a storyline once the season starts, not really in fall camp just because they're putting in stuff. It's about players and position groups and that sort of thing. The first one I want to go to, Jamie, is leadership at linebacker and what that linebacker room is going to look like, because I think you have Drake Bowen, who Chris Ash has mentioned a number of times, about he's taking over that leadership role for someone like Jack Kaiser, who was obviously a veteran presence back there or in the middle of the defense, and he was a captain. And the difference is Notre Dame doesn't have those kind of mainstays on the inside like they had with Howard Cross and Riley Mills last year. They have veterans at defensive tackle, but they don't have those frontline veterans where it's like those two are making All-American teams, And so I think it's doubly important for the linebackers to take on some sort of leadership, because they're in the middle of the field. You're also losing Xavier Watts. Now, you have a Don Schuler who figures to make a leadership role, but it's not the same as someone like Xavier Watts. So the linebackers last year, they had the two frontline guys in front of them. They had Xavier Watts behind them last year. This year, they don't have that. And so I think with Drake Bowen taking on that role, I think that KVA is going to take that role. And there's been a lot of talk about the four guys and Jalen Sneed and everything. and this has nothing to do with Jalen Sneed at all. I have a hard time believing that Notre Dame's two guys, when they take the field every single game, when healthy, are not going to be Drake Bowen and KVA. I don't know that you can keep KVA off the field as well as someone like Jaden Osbury could play, as well as someone like Jalen Sneed could play. It's very hard for me to see them keeping that player off the field. He's just too good, Jamie. But this is something I'm monitoring throughout the camp. Want to get your thoughts on that?
Yeah. And just for the people in the comments too, who made the comment about, I heard a kind of like a static on Mike too. And I don't know if it didn't look like that was mine. I don't know if it was coming from Greg's end, but yes, it stopped. So hopefully that's it for
I'm not hearing it. So it might be on mine.
Yeah. So, but I think it's all good now. So hopefully that's just good for everybody who's commenting on in the feed. Man, I do think the leadership of linebacker, I think is a really good one to bring up, because they're bringing back, it's so different than it was last year, where basically it was like Kaiser and then everybody else is new. And I know Sneed had played a little, but not much. And he definitely was not like a every down linebacker, and he really wasn't an every down linebacker for most of last year either. So I think that it's totally different, and there was kind of like a lot put on Jack Kaiser in that way, because it was like, okay, well, now you have to be like this guy. And I think now, because they have 4 guys back that I said on Power Hour that it was like, probably, I don't think there's any other team that has 4 guys coming back that are at the level that Notre Dame has. I don't think so. That guys who could legitimately all be starters and play at a really high level, like Sneed and Osbury are like bigger, better versions of the guys they were last year. Like, I'll always be surprised if both don't make a jump on our better players. And I do think Bowen, first of all, he was really outstanding for a first year starter, right? Like, really, when you look at it from that kind of perspective, like, PFF had the most valuable returning college player at every position, and that's based on their PFF wins above average metric that they have. And he's the highest at linebacker, out of every, player returning linebacker in the country. And he was like the 4th highest, PFF grade out of everyone. He was really good as a first-year starter, like way better than most first-year starters would be at linebacker for guys that are, true sophomores. So I think he kind of like set a high standard for himself, and then he's going to be a better version of that guy. And then also he really got a chance to kind of learn from guys like Bertrand and Liefeld and Kaiser, and like the standard those guys set, just in terms of, their, work ethic and everything that they did to kind of like lead the way. And I think that's just huge, right? Like, it's such a big thing that it doesn't necessarily need to be rah either. It's like, it doesn't have to be Ed Reed giving a speech, at halftime. It's got to be about like, what you're doing and what you're showing and the example you're setting. And I think he's a guy who's, because he plays at a high level, and because his understanding of the defense is a high level and all of that, like, he sets a standard for everybody else. And I couldn't agree more with KVA. I really just think that he's in line to have, he's just going to be too good not to play. Like, it was the same thing last year. Like, people just don't realize how crazy it is for a linebacker. Most linebackers don't play as true freshmen, or barely play, right? Like, he was one of only 4 Power 4 linebackers to play 300 plus snaps last year. Like, that's how rare it is. Yeah. 4 guys out of the entire Power 4, and he had the best grades out of all of them. And frankly, if on a lot of other Notre Dame teams that weren't as deep as they were at linebacker, he would have started. Like, he would have been a starter.
There's like a Kyle Hamilton to that.
Absolutely. Totally. Like with Jalen Elliott and Eloy Gilman there, kind of like blocking the way, but like, they weren't going to bench either of those guys because they were great. But like, at the same time, they had to acknowledge it. Like Kyle Hamilton's just too friggin' good. He's got to play, and I think that's always what you want. Is you want that freshman to be so good that it's undeniable. That guy needs to get on the field, and he's just someone, when they talk about him, just about him being a pro and just him taking everything seriously. Like, I think he's going to have a big time year, and he's going to be more of a playmaker this year. He's going to be even better. I think he was really, really good in the national championship game. He was very, very good. Like, there's a reason why you kind of go from not being, because he wasn't healthy for pretty much the entire, CFP. I know he came back to Georgia and then he played more against Penn State, but he wasn't really probably fully kind of healthy, even at the end. But he played more than anybody else. It was him and Bowen who played the most, right? So I'm excited. I'm excited for what they're going to do this year. And I guess the question will be just like whether or not somebody else can like kind of break into that mix, because those four guys are going to play and be pretty darn good.
It'll be hard. Like you mentioned, I think somewhere it'd be hard for Faramo to get in there because he's maybe good enough, but like getting over Osbury and Sneed on that end, like that's going to be very difficult too. Even if they wanted him in some sort of specialized role, like Notre Dame has specialized people for that. So it's just one of those deals where, man, like he might just have to wait a little bit before it's time because there's too many good players. I'm going to ask you this you're a D-line guy. Can the linebackers being more of a playmaking type of group than like last year where it was, they were younger and they didn't have, they weren't ready to cut loose like that. Does that help the D-line, the interior D-line, in the sense that they don't have that playmaking responsibility that maybe like it works out that you're losing Mills and Cross, that you count on them to be playmakers? Maybe you don't need Onye and Heinisch and Dawson and Elijah Hughes and Gabe Rubio to be the interior kind of playmaking, play busters that you would have had last year, because the linebackers are so much better and they're ready to kind of be more of a playmakers. Is there a symmetry there that it kind of works out? The interior D-line isn't asked to do as much.
I think so. I think there is some of that, because I think when you look at where Cross and Mills, those guys were just like never left the field, basically. Like there was always one of them out there at all times. And maybe it'll be the case that someone just ends up being so good that they'll, that could happen at defensive tackle this year. But it's not in the same way. Like Cross really, and I know he wasn't healthy for all of last year, but if you just look at the last 2 years, I mean, he played an incredible amount of snaps for like a nose guard. Like just not that many guys play that much. And of course you rely on a guy like that, but when you don't have to do that as much, I also think there's going to be more of a rotation. I think they're going to play probably, 5 guys at defensive tackle this year, maybe even 6, but like, I think that's going to happen. It's probably like an underreported story that Notre Dame has like 6 or 5 of 8 guys returning that were like their main rotation guys from last year, and then 2 other guys who were part of the rotation, like in Boubacar and Onye, who only played 5 games, but then they're going to be inserted in, and then that's not even counting Botello, who you assume was going to come back and be also inserted into the rotation. Plus they added Dawson. Plus, you don't know what guys like Mukum or Seviano or what Hughes or whatever these guys can also add to it too. So experience and just physical and technical development, like on defensive line, there is like no replacement for that. And when guys have like built up time, that's why you just see so many guys just become like better and better over time. Because I think even though like a guy like Dalen Hayes was a very highly ranked guy and played as a freshman, like it was like very like slow and steady progress with him in terms of, his level of play. And I think there's that's the case with so many guys. And I just think like having all that kind of like experience there in front of there, and it's not necessarily that any of those guys are going to be like just straight up studs. Like, maybe I said one or two could be, but I just really think just like having kind of like, quantity, but like quality of the quantity of just like solid for that much is like, it's pretty big.
Yeah. So and the thing is, I'm not super concerned about the interior in the sense that I think we kind of know what we're getting, and because there's so many of them, it'd be one thing if you were counting on, like, if it was just like Rubio and Heinisch, and then it was like, I don't know beyond that. Like, everyone else has played snaps behind them in a similar kind of way. And some of them have like bigger upside, right? Like, I think Onye has some pretty big upside. I think Jared Dawson has some pretty big upside himself. So we'll see what that is. I think the one thing to monitor, that is our next one, our next storyline, is just what the pass rush ceiling is going to be, Jamie. There's a photo out there of, and I would have put it on here, but it's kind of hard to see and it's kind of hard to pull up. There's a photo out there of the D line kind of official from the media day. They're all together. Bryce Young looks like an absolute monster. He looks like a mountain. This season could be huge. I mean, he could be like something very, very real, very like where he's going to be a first round pick kind of thing. Like, Notre Dame hasn't had that in the D line in a very long time. He's enormous. And I just think of him. I think of Boubacar. You think of someone like Botelho. This is when you bring Botelho in there. When you think of like, what can Josh Burnham bring there? And the other part too is you got guys like they're doing right and left, right? There's not a specialized Viper. There's not any of that stuff. It's just we're two rush ends kind of thing. And I think they have a lot of potential in a way that doesn't, I don't think the upside potential of the pass rush is a little bit different on the outside than it is on the inside, although I do want to get to that in a second. But what is in your mind, what is the ceiling for the defensive ends and the pass rush on the D line? Because I feel like it could be like we talk about with Georgia sometimes, or when we talked about with Alabama in years past, when they just had just some edge rushers that were just completely unblockable. I feel like Notre Dame could be approaching that, Jamie.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be at that point. I think that's more of like kind of set up to be the next year,
like a year away.
Yeah, because I think, there are some. Like, I think, Bryce Young could be amazing this year, but he could just, I do think it's like he's going to just be even more the next year. You know what I mean? So that's the way I kind of see it. And like Boubacar, Boubacar could go after this year like that. I think some people don't really maybe grasp it because, he's barely played. He's played 160 snaps in 2 years, 133 last year, because he only played 5 games, obviously. But Dane Brugler had him as the 9th underclassman edge. And I don't think people understand that, like, even though, like, if you only play that amount of snaps and you're already getting like recognized as someone who's like a legit prospect, that says a lot. And I think he'll probably stay, but I wouldn't be surprised if he has the kind of monster year that could lead to that. And obviously if he's back for another year, oh my God, 2 years of him and Young and those guys, like, could be scary. But I really think, like, okay, so they were 14th in PFF pass rush grade last year, but a lot of that was because, like, linebackers added in. But I also think, like, when we're talking about, like, Snead is going to be a better pass rusher this year. Like, he was a better pass rusher last year than he was the year before. KVA is going to be a better pass rusher. So you're adding in that kind of thing. Onye was like having an incredible breakout before, he left for his mental health issues. Like, he had, like an insanely high, like a 45% win rate against true pass sets. It wasn't going to keep up the whole year, but like, I don't think people understand. Like 20% is like elite at a defensive tackle. So if you're doing it at that rate, like he was just destroying guys. And he really was like, and then he also showed like that kind of thing again. And Heinisch was really like outstanding rushing the passer in the CFP. Like that was a real thing. Plus, I think like Logan Thomas is like, look at Logan Thomas there.
Look at him next to Bryce Young, Jamie. Good gracious.
Yeah. Logan Thomas, and you're like, okay, he's not a big guy. First of all, he looks bigger there than when I saw him in June. So that's a good thing. But Logan Thomas doesn't have to play every down. If he's just a guy who comes in and is like, hey, bat out of hell, like just twitch off the edge kind of thing, like he could be a guy who helps their pass rush this year. So I think that could be like a really big.
Look at Booker.
I don't know if you're hearing this, but I'm getting like a lot of static right now.
All right, let me try to fix mine. Look at Boubacar though. Look at him.
I know he's a dude. Yeah, it is. Mute your mic for a sec, Greg, and see if that changed. Yeah, okay, it is on Greg's end for what it is with the static. So sorry about that. Meanwhile, while Greg is working on that, just Sly Fox, because I saw you answered. I forgot to answer it earlier. Yes, I am going to be at practice tomorrow. That's why I'm here in this humble abode with all this Notre Dame stuff all around me.
It's better now.
It's still staticky. Not as bad as it was, but still a little bit. So
all right, keep going. Let me figure this out.
Yeah, I think they really, really have a chance to be like, they should be a top 10 pass rush team this year. I truly believe that. And I think you're going to see a lot of guys. I think you'll see a lot of the same things where they will still have a lot of like 5-man pressure stuff and do a lot of that. But I don't think you're going to see, you're going to see more 4-man pressure stuff and those guys because the D-line can win more. And I really just think that is going to happen. Also, I think too, like the fact that Mills was a very good pass rusher last year. He was, but Cross, you did not get the same level of pass rush that you got the year before, where he was unbelievable the year before as a pass rusher. But I mean, he had the hammy early on, and then he had the ankle later on. He basically had like a stretch of 3 games where he was fully healthy, and it was like Georgia Tech and Louisville and maybe one other game. And I got to tell you, like in the Louisville game, he was awesome. He was fantastic. And I think that so if they get kind of like more consistency out of that group from the inside too, because I think Dawson is like, very underrated pass rusher as well. That sounds way better, Greg. Now,
okay,
I can't hear anything now. So, yeah, I really just think that is going to make a difference. Nolan Anderson, I did not mention Rubio. We did mention him in general, like he's going to play, obviously, but in terms of pass rush, that's not his thing. He hasn't shown that. That
was my question is going to be like, who in your mind in the interior has like that upside? I think other than Onye, right? Because that was kind of where he was flashing. I think we kind of know that, but like who else on the interior to you has that like pass rush potential?
I think it's Onye and Heinisch right now, and Dawson, right? But I also think, okay, Hughes is another guy that to kind of watch out for there. Mukum is another guy to kind of watch out to see if like these guys kind of like grow and break out. Like I don't know if those guys will be doing it right away, but watch out for them like later on. And also too, like I know he's undersized and all that too, but I'm just telling you, yes, it was one practice where Cole Mullins, whatever. So you don't like to overreact to
you
one
love
practice.
Cole Mullins. You love Cole Mullins.
I'm just telling you, Cole Mullins looked legit as a pass rush, as an interior pass rusher. What I saw from him there, he showed some rare things. And throw it on the list. I'm monitoring him as a potential someone who could help in the pass rush this year.
I'm gonna throw this up of your boy, Mookum. Your boy here. Look at him on the edge. Hold on. Look at him on the end there, number 88. That's a big boy, Jamie.
It's a big dude, man. Oh, Seviano. Oh my God.
Seviano's a beast.
That is a mighty big dude with Seviano.
But Mookum's not supposed to be that, right? Like that wasn't what he was meant to. I don't think people saw that. I mean, that's we're monitoring. Like we're checking it out. We're checking that out in terms of just like he's. I think he's more ready to contribute now than he was in the past. And like again, that's why I just feel like it's not really a storyline on the D line, because I think they're all going to kind of play and they're all going to have roles. Like I think Jared Dawson, like he's a guy who came from Louisville, who I think was at 300 snaps last year, like 250. And I think there could be like four guys, 4 or 5, 6 guys who could kind of be in that, right, on the interior. So for me, it's just like hopefully they all stay healthy and they can all contribute. I think it's just going to be a Rolodex of guys that they're throwing in there at different spots. And maybe you have a guy who has a really good game and he's having a great game and they keep him out there. And then, maybe it's against USC, and then maybe against another team, against Arkansas, another guy's having a big game and he plays a few more snaps. But I think they have a lot of options there, a lot of good options, even if none of them are going to be kind of superstars in that way. So, that's something to keep track of. Let's go to our next one, Jamie. And we're going to talk about the second safety. For me, this is a big one because I think, obviously Jalen Stroman is an option there. They brought him in to, at the very least, be the floor of what the second safety is going to be, kind of like Rod Hurd last year. And then Adon Schuler made a huge jump in the offseason, and he became the starter. He became a very, very good starter. Now Adon Schuler is kind of the established player, and there's a bunch of players who are going to fight for that second safety spot. I'm monitoring Bronte Johnson, Jamie. I just the thing that makes me feel good about him is the amount of work that it takes for him to go from the body that he had as a freshman to the body that he has now. It takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of want to. And the fact that he was repping at corner last year shows me that he's absorbing multiple positions, like he's locked in to everything that Notre Dame's throwing at him right now. And I think with his skill set, with his size, with his athleticism, the playmaking that he showed on the offensive side of the ball as a high school player, like that is dynamic. And that is something that I don't know that anyone else has, including Stroman. So to me, Bronte Johnson is very interesting from a, can Notre Dame get him onto the field, and when can they get him onto the field, and how big of a role can he have? Because I just think the sky's kind of the limit for him if he can pick it up really quickly.
I feel the same way. Sam K. Talek, can you correct me if I'm wrong here, Greg? Talek, that was a pick 6 against Florida State. Am I incorrect here? It was a pick 6, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was like 80 yards.
Yeah, 80 yards. And I don't know what Sam K is talking about there. He didn't get caught. He scored a touchdown.
Well, so the other part too, he's like a 10-600 guy.
Yes.
So from a speed point of view, I'm not worried about him at all. Not worried about him at all.
Yeah.
None percent worried about the speed aspect. I think there's a question about his fluidity in the back that as a field safety is necessary, right? And frankly, that was something that X had to work on as well. And then obviously he did. It became one of the best safeties in the history of the program. But I think Bronte has a fluidity that Talech doesn't, right? So like to me, I watch Talech play and I see like, oh, I understand why he would run a 10-7, 10-6 in high school. But like you also have to have fluid hips, and you also have to be able to turn and run and that sort of thing. And I'm not saying he can't. I'm just saying I think Bronte is a little bit more developed in that way. So if I had a question about Talich being a field safety rather than someone who's coming down, it would be that. Just the ability to turn and run and change direction. And
yeah, Tay Johnson is a better athlete than whatever. I don't care about the 100 meters. Like, I mean, I'm not saying that it doesn't matter or whatever. Like, you're fast, but running in a straight line is not the whole piece of it, right? So, I think Tay Johnson that's why I think it's so big, because you could play Talich with Schuler, but I think both are suited for the same spot more, right? Like, and that's kind of the issue, which is why I probably don't think that Talich is going to start, because and it's not that he, is like smart enough or couldn't be good enough there, but I think Tay Johnson's skill set is better suited for that. And also too, like, I mean, he was just looked fantastic in the spring. Like, really, I love the way he tackled too. Like, I think that is another thing when you're thinking about a guy who didn't play a ton of defense in high school, and maybe I didn't think that he, attacked angles aggressively in high school. When
his high school tape is stinky. It just is.
As a safety,
yes, as a safety. He didn't play it.
Yeah.
And he wasn't taught it.
But I think so in that way too, and I think, Chris Ash mentioned it, he was kind of a revelation.
Yeah.
In the spring. And I think he just adds a kind of like similar versatility in terms of an athlete that X Watts has. And I'm not saying he's probably actually a better athlete than X Watts, but you know what I mean? In terms of like, this guy can play man. This guy can play deep. He can play single high, whatever. Just all of that kind of stuff, and range to cover things and all that. Now it'll be about like, recognition and instincts and all that kind of stuff too, that he has to have. But I mean, frankly, he showed quite a bit of it in the spring. So I'm super excited. For him. I mean, I think Jalen Stroman, I really wish we would have got to see even just a little bit of him in the spring.
There's like not a lot of, he's on the team tape or the group picture. There's not a lot of like proof of life Jalen Stroman like at Notre Dame at all. He is there, right? So but it's,
and he was on campus too. It's just
right. Like it like there's no pictures of him anywhere. So he's a total wild card. It's like I don't. Where are you bringing? And let's see, right? Like that's interesting as well as the second safety. Was kind of why we want to know, like, what is he bringing to this, right? Like he could. The thing is, Jalen Stroman could come in on the first couple days, and you find out like, oh, it's his job. You know what I mean? Like, oh, he's a dude, right? He's a real guy, and he's gonna take it in a way that Rod Hurd didn't. But that's also in play, right? So, he's not MIA. It's just like there's photos of like Ty Washington at practice. There's photos of Malachi Fields' practice.
He just hasn't been included in the social.
He just hasn't been including in that, and I just think it's funny. I don't think it's indicative of anything. That's a good situation, right? To have other than a Don Schuler, to have Stroman, Bronte Johnson upcoming. I mean, Luke Talich played real snaps last year, not just in the defensive backfield, but also in special teams. Like he's making huge plays in the playoffs, right? In the title game, in the semifinals, right? So that matters as well. And then you get guys like, Ben Minnick, who's also an option there. Devontae Smith has some safety background as well, so he can fill in if he needs to. So the second safety spot is big, and we're going to be tracking it. Yes, stinky, smelly. I said the tape is not good. Maybe if you'd gone with VSR Media, Jamie, the tape could have been a little bit more
could have been better.
It could have been better. You can go with VSR Media for your highlight reel. Founded by Notre Dame football pregame host and Emmy award-winning anchor Vahid Sadrazadeh, VSR Media provides professional and cinematic video and photo. Whether you're looking for a collegiate or pro-level highlight reel, have a personal story to tell, or are aiming to diversify and grow your business, VSR Media specializes in short and long-form video storytelling, social media management, and website design. VSR Media also captures professional headshot, senior, and sports photos. Contact them at vsrmediacompany.com. Mention Irish Sports Daily to receive 20% off your first project. Visit them online or give them a call at 574-800-9106. That's going to lead to our next storyline. Is Notre Dame's corner depth. Is it going to be elite the way that it was last year with Leonard Moore being Notre Dame's third corner? Do they have that elite corner depth? And I'm talking about in the form of Carson Hobbs. Are we talking about, and we'll get to this in a second with freshmen, but can a freshman come in and do that? Obviously, Leonard Moore, I think one of the most prophetic things ever said was by Ben Morrison last year at this time. He said that Leonard Moore is going to be better than him. And I honestly think that is true. Because again, these group photos, Leonard Moore is big. He has got the size. He's got like he's filled out now. I mean, if this isn't a first round pick, Notre Dame will never have a first round pick at corner, because this is a very good looking athlete. And this is a guy who can turn and run. He's was famous for kind of the chase down plays that he had last year. So we kind of know, okay, that's an elite football player. What are they getting out of Christian Gray in his second year? What are they getting out of Carson Hobbs as he kind of, matriculates into a regular in the lineup there? And then I kind of include Devontae Smith in here, because the nickel is a corner position in the sense that, like, they're playing a ton of man. They're covering a ton out of the slot. So I kind of throw Devontae Smith in there. Is Notre Dame going to be as elite as they were last year because of the fact that they had Leonard Moore as that third player? That's going to be something to monitor, Jamie. What are your expectations for what you might see from this group?
I mean, I'm pretty darn high. Like, I think that, and sorry if anyone's hearing like a hammering in the background, that the place I'm staying at, there's like, they're doing work outside on some stuff. But I think, Moore, I mean, you just kind of expect that at the very least, he's going to be at the same level. And if he's at the same level that he was last year, he's the best corner in college football. Like, because he pretty much was that last year. So I think that's, something that I think people should feel pretty confident in. I think he's going to be a better version of that too. So people should feel very confident in that. And I think the question with Gray, who was very good last year, he was very good. It's just that obviously he had some issues late in the year. And if you look at like the first like 11 games compared to like the last, 5 games, and what his numbers were in terms of what he gave up in that. Now, and don't get me wrong, in those last 5 games, he made 2 of the biggest plays of the season, right? Like, he made the game-winning interception against pick 6 against USC, and then the play that essentially won them the game against Penn State. So I think, but it's a question whether or not, like, okay, he had some issues with the deep ball, and I'm not just talking about Jeremiah Smith. I'm talking about like other things, and we've talked about it. We
talked about it a ton. He had it against Navy.
Yes. Frankly, I think he's just had it some of these times where it's clearly not a speed, just a straight up speed thing with him. I think there was a lot of like technical stuff with it, and he just never kind of, there's like, it's just like this hammering away.
I can't hear it.
So. Okay, that's good. And to me, the story will be whether or not, okay, well, he had to play so much. Was it a case of wearing down, or is he just going to be like this better version? I expect him to be a better version of the player that he was last year anyways, because I think you saw, similar stuff with Cam Hart, actually, early on with him in the deep ball, and then he got better and better as it went along. So I think there's that. And then I also think you're going to see teams, like, I would be shocked if Miami's like, hey, we're going at Gray. Like, they're going to attack him. They're going to throw deep on him and see how he does. And then that's going to happen early and often in the season. And it'll be how he handles it and how well he, like, teams will keep doing it until they're like, yeah, we can't do this anymore, right? Like that's usually the case when somebody had, something on film from the previous year, right? So I think that's going to be the determining factor, whether or not he is still just really good, or if he maybe takes a jump to like elite, and he's like, him and Moore together are like, oh my God, this is the best pair of corners that Notre Dame has had, since I don't know, like early 90s or something, with Holtz or something, like, Light and Tom Carter or something like that. I don't know. Like it could get to that, right? If he really takes the jump.
Do you think, I want to kind of drill down on this a little bit. Do you think it's a physical issue with Gray in terms of being able to turn and run, just the straight up foot speed problem? Or do you think it's more of a technique issue?
I thought it was technical, but again, I mean, I think Mike Mickens would know better than any of us of what, it would be. So, I mean, we haven't seen any indication that they have like major concerns about Gray or anything like that. So, I don't know. I think we'll kind of see if there's like changes this year, or if it's just like, okay, he just can't. That's his thing. That's his kryptonite, right? And that's what people are going to attack him. So, I think that's going to be that is definitely something to watch early in the season. For them, and frankly too, I just think that whether or not, say, like, people mention Carson Hobbs in there too as like the third corner, and he certainly could be. I mean, he had a really great spring. I mean, he might be awesome, but it's not. I don't know that he is going to be like, okay, like if someone gets hurt and then he's Leonard Moore, right? Like right away, because that's almost unrealistic to think of that. But I do think like he's a good player and he's going to be better than what they had as the third corner last year when Morrison went down. So when Morrison went down and it was just Gray and Moore, they didn't feel confident enough to play Hobbs or anybody else. And now I think they are going to feel confident to play Hobbs and give him opportunities. And I also think that they're, one of those freshmen. And we kind of talked about like Cree Thomas in the summer, and he was getting a lot of like, a ton of love in the spring from people. And we'll see where he's at in fall camp. But also, where are the other guys, right? Like, where's Golden? Where's Zachary? And I would say I would be more skeptical of Zachary doing it because he weighed 170. They listed him at 170 at the time, but I don't know. Maybe he's like 177 or something now, right? And that's the thing. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think on Gray, I think it was a technique issue that became a physical issue. His lack of technique then put everything on his physical ability, and then he was deficient in that area. Like, specific to goal balls, right? Like, he's late with his feet. He's late with his hands. He's trying to pull. Like, he's not turning around, and then he is turning around. Like, he totally just completely lost confidence on those particular routes. And I think if they fix it, like, I don't think that he's an elite athlete the way that like BMO was, or the way that Leonard Moore is, but I don't think that he needs to consistently be getting run by on go routes like that. Like, slower players or players of his ability have not had this problem, right? I don't think he's that much worse of a corner than, say, like Bennett Jackson, who they didn't put in these positions, right? So or I don't think he's that much worse of a corner than, say, like Kavari Russell either. So I think they can work with him, and they just need to build this confidence when defending the go, and then you don't have that deficiency, because obviously when he's covering something inside, or whether it's a crosser or whether it's a curl or out or whatever it might be, he's a much better player, right? So I think there's something in there for him. And I think, like you said, with Carson Hobbs, like, I think he can give you what Christian Gray is giving you. He just can't. I think it's, like you said, it's unrealistic to expect that he's going to be like the caliber of someone like Leonard Moore. I mean, frankly, if he is, like, he'll just win the job. You know, like if he is that, then he'll pass Christian Gray and he'll be the regular starter if he's that good. I think the thing with with Carson Hobbs, I think he's super important as a guy if he can play in the nickel. Because I wanted to talk about this too, because this came up on Monday on Power Hour, Jamie, about like because Devontae Smith came specifically from Alabama, who runs some of the most exotic coverages you can imagine in the defensive backfield. I mean, they rival Notre Dame's in terms of what they're trying to do. I think because he's been in that system, he can do things in the dime that I don't think are available to really a lot of guys on the roster. And so I think Hobbs' ability to come in and play that nickel spot, then they give some versatility and some changeability with Devontae Smith, and I think could be interesting. I wanted to get your thoughts on that because I think that's kind of a wild card in the defensive backfield is the versatility that Devontae Smith has.
Yeah, I think my guess too of what it will look like when they actually play dime this year, and I'm sure we won't see any of it during actual camp. They're not going to show us that, but they will. I think my guess would be Smith and Hobbs will be the extra defensive backs. Like, you know, like, I mean, obviously one of them will already be the nickel anyways, but yes, like Hobbs would be there over another safety is what I would say. So,
yeah.
And then they'll decide to do, you know, whatever you know, they want there. And then also too, it gives you like the versatility to kind of like, do an extra thing, because I think both those guys, even though Hobbs is a corner, he's got like safety traits and stuff too, in terms of just like his physicality and all that too. So I think people are going to really like Devontae Smith. I think, you know, just kind of like how they really liked, you know, Thomas Harper and Jordan Clark.
Yeah.
Because kind of like cut from the same cloth in a lot of ways too, where these guys are just like, they got like edge, they're smart and they have edge, and they're like not guys who make mistakes. They're guys who go and like, you know, they're playmakers. They're involved in the play and they bring fire, and they're going to be very additive to what Notre Dame is doing. So I love that. I think they're just in a great spot at defensive back in general. And I think if they will be in the best spot ever if Tay Johnson wins that one safety job. I think that is like the ideal scenario. And then maybe they'll play 4 safeties instead of 3 this year. But I think they're in a good spot.
Yeah. Let's go on to the last one. The last storyline is the freshman impact, right? Can anyone come in and be an impact player here? We've seen Cree Thomas already on campus and in the spring game, and he's played very well. Mark Zachary and Dallas Golden pictured here are on campus now. I was looking at Jamie. I was looking at the video that Notre Dame posted of them working out yesterday, and they did like some change of direction clip. I mean, it was like a 3-second thing or whatever. But I'm weird, and so I zoomed in on like who's changing direction really fast. And I got to tell you, Dallas Golden got low, and he transitioned those hips and got out. Woo! I was so excited, and because I've been on Dallas Golden for a long time, hence my excitement. And that's just such a great athlete, Jamie. It's like you have an athlete like him, find a position for him and get him out on the field. We talked a bit about Madden Faramo. It's going to be hard for him other than just like maybe just throw him out there and have him rush the passer a little bit. Greg Balderas asking about Dallas Golden returning punts and kickoffs. I think he could. I don't think they'll have him do it personally, especially on punts. Like, it's going to be Great House probably because they want someone who they know is going to catch the ball, especially in the first 2 games. Like, Marcus Freeman is very risk averse that way. It's like, I don't like Jordan Faison muffed 1 punt and it was like, okay, you're done for like the year. Like, he's out. So I don't know that they're going to risk that with Golden, but I think he has a chance. Jadon Blair, Ethan Long, like, I think they have good futures, but it's just hard to break the safety rotation right now. I think Cree Thomas has a chance. I think Dallas Golden has a chance. I think Faremo has a chance. Is there anybody I'm missing there who you feel like could kind of break in as a freshman and get into the lineup, Jamie?
No. I mean, I really think that if I had to put money on who has the best chance, I would say Cree Thomas, just out of the guys, because he's already been on campus, and he's already impressed. Like they like him. They like him. The other players are very complimentary of him. So I think he would be the guy that I would say is the closest to a lock to play there. And then I would say probably Dallas Golden. If Dallas Golden had been more of a pure corner coming in and had that experience, then I would say, yeah, he would be the guy that who's coming in and the summer that would have been my choice as like the best chance of like, yeah, he's going to play this year and like be good. But we just don't know how like the transition of like kind of learning the defense and all that kind of, process of that is going to happen. But man, I'm really excited for him. And I've heard good things about like, how he's looked in the summer, just in general. So that's always good. But I really think that like this camp is all going to be about like, who of these guys kind of shows that like, oh, this guy's just so good that, I mean, he's got to get on the field.
Yeah.
Right. Like, cause, as we kind of, we roughly went over every position, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're not desperate for guys to play ever. This isn't like 2017 where defensive tackles where they're like, guess what? Kurt Heinisch, you are not ready to play, but we need you, man. Like that is like, you're puking on the first day here, but we need you, right? Like, like that is, they're not in that situation in any of those for any position, right? And maybe some injuries change that, and maybe that is what is the catalyst to get some guys there. But if some guy is going to play, it's going to be because like Ben Morrison comes in and you're like, this guy's playing. Like he jumped the line, like that I think is probably the most likely scenario. And listen, even if there aren't guys that I would say like are obvious choices there to do that, I think the one thing that we can say about this Notre Dame staff, they have just evaluated so well. There's always some guy who comes out and you're like, oh, this guy is just way better than I thought he was. And he is way more ready. And I mean, obviously that goes for the offense too. That could happen on offense as well. But I mean, I'm going to guess there's going to be one of those guys, and I can't say who it is, like which guy for sure it's going to be, but there will be probably one other guy, not Cree Thomas, who I kind of mentioned. They've already kind of said things about. There'll be one other guy that like, and I would lean towards Dallas Golden, but like just because of obviously what I've heard about him, and also how we kind of felt about him as a recruit and all that too. But I mean, just don't count out anybody, because I just think that that's kind of been the MO of the staff. And then and that to me is why kind of like wrap it up and say get into like, fall camp starting tomorrow. Like that's what I love about fall camp is like guys get to go and show that there's always somebody who's just going to like come in and surprise, especially, with this staff, it's been every year.
There's going to be someone who we hear about and it's like this guy, like this is a dude, and it could be lots of guys. So it'll be exciting. It'll be exciting to figure out who that is. And we're going to cover that for you tomorrow. We're going to be back at 3 Eastern time, 12 Pacific time, because there's a practice in the morning. There's the press conference with Marcus Freeman after that. And then there's, Jamie's got to do his write-ups and everything, get some lunch. We're going live. Josh Miller, get it together, man. You're not in the show. Like we're wrapping up here and you're just showing up.
Are you not subscribed? Did you not get the alert?
Like, like this is the thing. hit the notification bell, and it lets you know that we're going live. I don't want an apology. This is like, Jamie, this is what we're at fall camp, right? What is the thing that coaches hate? That when you say my bad, don't tell me you're bad. You got to be accountable. All right. I need you here. All right. So Josh, pay attention. All right. We're at 3 Eastern. We're at 3 Eastern tomorrow, 12 Pacific. We're hitting up the Hit and Hustles, and we're firing it up, and we're going to talk fall camp. We're going to talk at the opening of fall camp. We're going to talk about Marcus Freeman and his opening press conference and what he brings up. And so we got it all covered for you here. So hit the like, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. So whatever it is, we are going live. That'll be tomorrow, 3 Eastern, 12 Pacific. Have a good rest of your day, everyone. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Keep hitting and hustling.